Hello and welcome to a Bergkamp Wonderland, an Arsenal podcast. I'm Gimli, and tonight I'm going to be joined by, first up from She Wore a Yellow Ribbon, it's our friend Mr. Gav. Hello.
Hi.
It's nice to have you back.
Yeah, it's good to be back, to be honest with you. I missed having a chat with you lads. A little bit.
Your absence was felt during the transfer podcasts yesterday.
I'm not sure I could have added a lot to the conversation of nothing's happening, and still nothing's happening.
I think we did quite well to string it out for a whole, 8 hours?
Yeah, I mean, my favourite one was the last podcast that you done, lasted about 3 minutes, and let's wrap up all what we've done in the transfer window. Nothing.
Yeah, no.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And nothing.
Basically, we all thought, they fucked off down the pub, so I think we will too.
I think they fucked off down the pub a lot before you did.
They were probably down there for happy hour.
Opening time, probably.
Right. Next up, joining me, he is the voice of all things Arsenal. It's Mr. Geoff Arsenal. Hello, Geoff.
Evening. I'm angry tonight. I'm very angry.
Really?
Yeah, angry tonight. I've been the last 24 hours. I've been looking at Twitter and just having a look at all these expert critiques that have been criticising the club and the manager and everything else. And even the missus last night, she wanted to have a little turn out and all that. I said, no, love, no. I said, hold on a minute. I said, I've got to save myself. Like them boxers, the boxers, they don't have no business, do they, before the fight?
No.
I said, it's because, love. She said, why, what's happened, Geoff? She's quite posh, my missus, you see. I said, no, I've got to save myself, honestly. Big podcast coming up over the next week, but this one's appeared tonight, so here we go.
Can we just get your missus on instead, Geoff?
She's better looking than me, Gav, I promise you that.
Don't doubt that for a second. Joining us next, all the way from Spain, it's our grumpy Venezuelan John. Hello, John.
Hello, lads. How you doing tonight?
Oh, wow. The last 24 hours, it's been up and down.
To say the least, more down than up, though.
Yeah, definitely. And joining us lastly, our special guest, and he promises fireworks tonight. From the AST, it's Tim Payton. Hello, Tim.
Hello there. This is the carry on up the Arsenal transfer window session.
Is he a spokesman for the AST tonight, or is it just a personal appearance?
It's a personal appearance. I can throw in some AST facts and reports because we have been warning about this for a while, haven't we?
Well, as you know, I'm an AST member, and I swear, yesterday when I was listening to the second podcast that you appeared on, well, I was going to stamp on my badge. I really was.
I was being quite gentle. I suggested that he earned his salary through bonuses.
I think it was all the way through. It was, honestly, I had pictures in my head of John Cleese of going out smashing a granny out of his Morris 1100. You remember? That was me, mate, with my AST badge. I promise you. Sounded the old girl next door was out there. I was bollock naked at the time, and also I couldn't really do
it. Applying your rear naked choke, probably.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Right then, where do we start tonight then, fellas? I can assure you, normally with a podcast we have some kind of running order, but tonight we don't. Literally, it was decided late this afternoon that Geoff was going to come on, we'd have Gav and John, and Tim wanted to add some fireworks. So what we're going to do is a nice little chat like we're all down the pub, except we can't strangle each other. And Geoff, your thoughts on the last 24 hours, please?
Well, I'm a little bit disappointed, I must say, because it would have been nice to sign one or two players that could have really, really made an impact. But at the same time, it's no good just wasting money on players that, one, are maybe not good enough for the team, and two, you're going to have to pay over and above what they cost to get them, and they still might not be ready for coming into the squad. So, although I'm a little bit disappointed, I'm glad that he didn't go out and just buy anybody in a rush job and spoil it for the summer, because I'm sure in the summer we'll go back out there and we'll have plenty of money to spend.
But Geoff, to pull you up on something you said about a month ago, yeah?
Yeah.
And I hope you don't mind on this.
No.
You said that you thought Berbatov would have been a good acquisition. Why? Why do you think that there was absolutely zero interest from us for Berbatov?
I think he was signing for Monaco, wasn't he, mate? When you get offered maybe £180,000 a week and to play in Monaco, if you got the scales in front of you, you see Monaco, £180,000 a week, nice. Easy.
They pay about 50, but he loses
Beautiful.
half that in tax anyway, doesn't he?
Hold on. I'm sure they make up for it, mate. I mean, a lovely, beautiful place, and then you've got the cold winter's day that's coming up in London. I think it's a no-brainer, mate.
But Geoff, it didn't get that far. We didn't try. We didn't try for Berbatov. You know that. If you try for Berbatov and he picks Monaco, then your excuse, if you like, is valid. I would have been a huge fan. I think the final 4 months of a run into the championship, you need players that have done it before. I think a player that's won it before, that's Premier League ready, that's kind of acclimatised because they're in London, is exactly what you need. And I think I'm fed up with the jam tomorrow, or save the money for the summer. There's 3 big trophies to be had in the next 4 months. You do everything possible you can. You leave no stone unturned to try and win those trophies now. If you've got no money in the bank, fair enough, you make do with what you've got, but there's 70 million sitting there. For me, of course, Arsenal are an ambitious club, but they're not ambitious enough. And they prove that yet again in the transfer window.
You don't know straight away. You don't know that they didn't make an inquiry for Berbatov. You don't know. They might have had a chat with the agents.
There was zero noise anywhere, Geoff. If there was even, you know what it's like these days, mate.
It's all assumptions,
I know, but everybody wants to make a name for himself by saying, contact's been made here, or blah blah blah, and literally nothing is kept quiet these days. If there was anything with us into Berbatov, we would have heard about it, mate.
Well, not necessarily, because if it was muted straight away, if they said, "Well, I'm sorry, he's going to Monaco for £180,000 a week," then that's the end of the game, mate. Same as if someone's wanted by Arsenal, and then and you hear that they're also wanted by Chelsea and Manchester City, it knocks the cods out of you, mate, because they're going to bid whatever you're more than what you are.
But let's widen it out, not get stuck on Berbatov.
No.
The fact that it was likely that we needed a striker has been a strategic imperative for the club since Van Persie went, and certainly through the last transfer window. It wasn't like it crept up as a surprise on them last Tuesday.
No.
The scouting network should be looking at both what you might call the good quality stopgap, help you out between now and May, and at the big wow major signing, can you get someone who you see as part of your squad for the next 4 years? Or you can do the ifs and buts, and it's difficult and it's hard. All we know is they failed. They knew the challenge. They've got the money. It's been there for a long time. Now, it might be that they tried ever so hard and it nearly didn't happen. But you've got to look at them, and you've got to look at the body language that comes out and what's going on, and think that if it were just one window, Geoff, I'd be with you. But we've seen this go on now for 4 or 5 windows. Indecision, lack of focus on who targets are, not wanting to use money that's available. There are some common themes here, and I was hoping we were breaking out of it, and it looks like we haven't. And then to compound it all, we come up with a signing who's cropped.
But at the same time, you got to take into account, Monaco with endless wealth signed Berbatov on a loan. So how many top striker targets were really out there? Number one. Number two, it came out today that Draxler, gave a few quotes and said that he was ready to move, that there were offers, and that at the last minute the manager stepped in and snubbed the offers for him to move. So, yes, I understand that there should have been a plan B. There should have been, more targets, but it's not like they didn't try either.
I don't think there was a plan B. I don't even think there was a plan A.
No,
you wouldn't do. You wouldn't.
No, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, we've been looking for a top. As Tim said, we've been looking for a top class forward since Van Persie spat the dummy and fucked off. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. This is now was it the 3rd or the 4th transfer window since?
Third since that happened.
Like I say, it's been no secret. Anybody who knows anything about football, and anybody who watches Arsenal on a regular basis knows. Look, we've been missing a top quality forward. And I mean, how long is it going to take till we get one? I mean, if you look at who everybody else, Man City have got a wealth of options. So have Chelsea, even Man United. When everyone's fit at Man United, no one we've got at our club would probably get into any of the other three's first 11. And that's the problem. I mean, in the summer, obviously, there was the bar incident where Mourinho pulled the plug on the last minute once he found out that we had Ozil on the way. But it's just ridiculous. Look, the last day of the transfer window, they're hoping to bring in the striker. They've had since August to find one to, maybe do a little bit devious, maybe tap somebody up, maybe, see what's going on everywhere else. And it just didn't happen. And it's not like a last minute thing. By the sounds of it, we weren't really in for one. And, I weren't too, I weren't too excited about Draxler, to be honest with you. I mean, he's a 20-year-old German, he's in the squad of the German national team. I'm not too actually impressed that he could have actually come in and helped us go on and win something this year. What we actually needed, in this transfer window is somebody to come in who, can get money straight away, maybe like an old journeyman or someone like that. And, we spoke about this before, and, my only thing about the transfer window really is that before it opened up, I thought to myself, I'd actually settle for somebody. I'd actually settle for somebody in their 30s who's been about a little bit, but, knows where the goal is, will get on the ground running as just like a 6-month loan or something like that. And we didn't even come, we didn't even get that. It's ridiculous. We are a bad tackle on Giroud away from coming third or fourth.
Gav, but I mean, you've got to take all things into consideration.
I am. The squad ain't. The squad is good. But it's just not good enough.
He's not stupid, is he? He's not stupid. You can't say stupid, mate. He's definitely more qualified at his job than you are at doing his job. That's an absolute fact. I think we both agree on that, can't we?
No.
Oh, all right. Okay. Well, that's the end. That's the end of the argument, isn't it?
No, of course it's not. I mean, at the end of the day, if me and thousands of other, tens of thousands of other people, and every single commentator that commentates on, tens of thousands of football fans, everybody that commentates on the BBC, the ITV, Sky, everybody says the reason why Arsenal won't win the league this year is because we're short up front.
Yeah, but now, he knows that.
If I'm wrong, if tens of thousands of football fans are wrong, if all the commentators are wrong, what is Wenger right?
Well, but he knows it's been well documented he's looking for a striker. The whole world knows he's looking for a striker. But who can you buy?
But £2 million for Miroslav Klose, a 35-year-old German that
they didn't want to do the deal. Lazio blanked us.
But that's still not good enough. A 35-year-old man will come in and add fuck all to our team.
Well, you keep going.
That's not exactly true. I mean, he's still a German international. He knows how to play with Ozil and with Podolski. He scored something like 19 goals last year. So that's not exactly true.
Leading World Cup goal scorer ever.
The difference of winning the title to coming runners-up or second in prize money, in the sponsorship bonuses that come in that it creates, is probably 20 to 25 million. And you've got 70 million there. You don't go crazy, but if you have to go 4 million, not 2 million for Closer, if you have to do a bit more to get a Vucinic, to get a Rondon, to get, to pick someone out, you do it. But this goes back to Van Persie going, a huge strategic error was made there. When they were negotiating with Manchester United and were desperate, they should have had one of Manchester United's strikers in reverse. It is very hard to get hold of players now. And when you get that opportunity to swap or negotiate, they should have had a Hernandez or Welbeck, because you'd have got them for 16 million for Van Persie, plus them thrown in. Whereas if you tried to buy them now, they'd ask you 15 million. And Geoff, I'm not saying that that's the person to lead our line, to be our main striker.
You just did.
No, because you still have Giroud, but you've got to think at the moment.
What are you going to sit on the bench, them two?
Someone comes in who gets 1 goal, 2 goals more than Bentner will get when he plays, 2 more assists, and pulls the team together. That could be the difference between winning the title and coming second. And I'm going to be so sick if we lose the title by about 4 points and we've got this 70 million sitting there and we've gone through 2 or 3 windows without just being a bit bolder and a bit braver to get there. And it is systematic, Geoff, isn't it? Because it's been going on for 18 months.
But you can't buy what's not out there. I'd like to bet Bentner scored more goals for Arsenal than Man United.
Everybody, we've got to stop offering Arsenal prices and stop offering real transfer window prices, and people are available. Mata wasn't available to United until they came in with an incredibly good price, and he becomes available. You keep going back with big money. It's Arsenal's job. We're a big club now. We've got to change our mentality. We've got to start being big out there.
Yeah, change your mentality is one thing.
You've got to bully the clubs into selling the players, mate. That's how it happens. Do you know what I mean? That's what's happened to us over the years. That's what we've got to do to other clubs. We've got to bully them. We should have gone up with a stupid, even 25 million quid bully Villa for Benteke. That would have put a different option on the bench.
Help me,
listen,
please.
Listen, don't get me wrong, right? Giroud deserves to lead the line for the rest of the season. The problem is when it comes to all these tricky fixtures we've got this month and in March, and we're playing fucking 3 games in 6 days and shit like that, right? Giroud is not going to be at his best for 3 games in 6 days or 7 days. He's not going to be at his best.
You've been saying that since the start of the season, Gav.
I know, and how many goals has he scored?
What doesn't matter? We was top of the league until a week ago.
How many goals has Aguero scored? How many goals has...
He's £40 million. £90 million he cost Man City.
How many goals has Suarez scored?
Well, he's another one that's going to cost £90 million to somebody. You're talking about the players that we are looking to purchase. Yes, we'd love an Aguero. We'd love a Suarez. They're at clubs at the moment.
So, I mean, we've got somebody that is nowhere near their class, right? We've got nobody near the actual... I mean, we couldn't sell Giroud for 90 million.
Of course we couldn't. No, of course we couldn't.
Exactly.
I agree.
The thing is we're not going to get...
But then we wouldn't be looking for a top-class striker, would we? We know that.
Well, I know. So, like I say, that's where it's going wrong, mate. Where it's going wrong is the fact that we've been looking for almost 18 months now.
Well, there's not one there.
They haven't. So nobody's moved in the last 18 months.
Well, tell me a top-class striker that could have come to Arsenal, right? That could have come to Arsenal in the last 18 months.
Okay. See, that's where you're getting it wrong, right? We've got the money. What we've got to do is go out and buy the players.
What, Falcao? You're talking about Falcao. We could not afford Falcao.
We're talking about anybody that's moved.
There's Iguan, so there was that one. Then there was Suarez, and that's a classic.
Cavani.
Let's go back to the Suarez one for a moment, because it kind of sums us up. He is so clearly worth more than 40 million in the market. You go in at 60 million. We could have gone in at 60, 70 million and still had a huge transfer kitty left. We've got to change our mentality. We tiptoe round. Oh, we might be too much money. Oh, I don't really believe in transfer windows in January. I won't use them. Oh, can I get a loan deal? Oh, it's going to kill Sonogo. I just think we've got to step up a gear. And
Arsenal,
it's systematic.
Arsenal are not a club right now that can afford to pay 70 and 80 million pound and compete with Manchester City and Chelsea and Manchester United for the absolute top end centre forwards. We're just not there yet.
Why are we paying top end money for the manager then?
Well, we're not paying top end money for the manager. Well, thank God we're paying. We're giving him a good salary, because if you'd won that with someone like Owen Coyle or one of the others, or like your man, where are they doing at the minute? Swansea. You spat at him last year. You wanted to sack Venegar and get him in. Your kid from Swan. What's his name? I can't remember his name.
Michael Laudrup.
Blimey, yep. Right. They're 2 or 3 points off the bottom of the league now.
They'll stay up. They'll stay up on
fantastic.
That's a good achievement for Swansea, but they'll stay up on a fucking not even a tenth of the budget of what the Arsenal are paying at the moment.
Jeff, we can afford it. Jeff, we can't afford to keep doing it. And yes, it's more risky, because obviously you might buy someone who gets crocked. But we can afford to pay now, yesterday, tomorrow, £50 million for one of those top strikers, no problem. We could do 60.
Where are you going to get him? Tell me who you can buy tomorrow with £50 million.
Well, you go in and you have a go for Costa. What are Chelsea going to play?
Oh, please. You're off your head. Honestly, Timmy is not worth £50 million. Please, write that down now.
Well, nobody's. I don't think anybody's worth that kind of money.
Yeah, Jeff, this is what you do represent. I think what the club has become. No one's worth it. We can't possibly improve. You're telling me you can't.
He's not good enough. He's not good enough. £50 million. He's a toss up between him and Giroud. I'm telling you.
Well,
it's not a lot in him.
I'll tell you what. Fuck the money for a minute, right? The issue is we have not improved on Bentner being the second choice forward at the club.
Jeff, we had to pull him back from Palace. How embarrassing.
Yeah, Bentner, we had him gone. We had him fucked off.
Never pay for us again. And now our season's chances of winning silverware rely on Nicholas Bentner.
No, not necessarily. I think you're
They
being
don't.
harsh.
No. Do you seriously think Giroud can be? I mean, Giroud, he needs 3 or 4 good chances per game to get a goal, right? Whereas we need, I mean, all the other clubs, all the other top clubs have got a striker that sometimes don't even need half a chance and they're going to score, right? He's not going to be able to perform at the level he performs, being the lone man through the middle 3 times a week. And when we've got this run in, which is like fucking Man City, Man United, Munich, Chelsea, then Munich, then Tottenham, then Everton, he's not going to be able to cope with all them games.
And a couple
There's
of
no way in the
Liverpool
world. Yeah, a couple of. Well, I mean, forget them bin dippers. We'll fucking screw them bastards. But do you know what I mean? You see what I mean? He's not. That's the problem. And the problem is Wenger's going to have to rotate, and we're okay with rotating more or less in every position that we've got in the club at the moment. Where we haven't got an issue, where we have got an issue rotating, is up front, and that's why everybody's disappointed. It's only going to take Arsenal losing a game, fucking 1-0. To fucking some poxy team, and
that happens.
Giroud misses a couple of goals, and
Forwards always miss goals, mate. Forwards, no. Listen, this is all a big myth.
Tiredness,
I just
tiredness, mate.
I can't see it. This is all a big myth, mate. Because at the moment, right, we're scoring goals. The way Arsenal play, we score goals from all over the pitch. This is a great big myth. We've been saying it since the start of the season. Oh, we're not going to do any good. We've got no strikers. We've been top since last week, until last week. We can go top again tomorrow.
And this is the scary. Listen, I think what everybody's saying is the scary thing is Giroud has 10 goals. After Giroud, you're talking Aaron Ramsey with 8 in the league. I'm talking Aaron Ramsey with 8, Theo Walker with 5. Aaron Ramsey's out for another 6 weeks. Theo Walker's out for the rest of the season. Then you have Cazorla also with 4 apiece, and then Podolski with 3. Not even our main backup striker isn't even in the top 6.
Do you know he's the second top scoring striker in the Premier League after Suarez, Giroud. Rooney's got 8, and Percy's got 7. He might have more now, thinking about it, because he scored again today, didn't he? Right. So
well, they've both been injured for long periods.
Well,
Giroud's also played the most games out of them all. And like I say, don't anybody get this wrong. This isn't a session in slagging off Giroud, because Giroud is perfectly capable and perfectly able. The problem is, if he gets suspended, if he gets injured, and obviously he does get tired. You can see it in his play. When it comes down to nitty gritty, which is going to be the next 6 or 7 weeks, right? He's not going to be able to play this number of games in the next 6 or 7 weeks, and that's where the fuck ups come, and that's why our season's going to end in fucking bitter disappointment in probably about 7 weeks' time.
Well, I read a report on the lad only about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and he's in 6 years before he come to Arsenal. In 6 years, 5 or 6 years previously, he'd only been injured twice. He's not that type of guy to get injured all the time.
Yeah, that's the problem that I have.
He's a strong old boy.
Everybody's talking about Giroud like he's fucking made of glass, and he's not.
No, he's a big. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's a big lump. I'm more concerned about the fact that the amount of space that he covers and the amount of work that he puts into a game, which is very admirable for his position that he plays. I just can't see him doing it 3 times a week.
I'd say another thing
at the level that we need him to do it at to actually win something.
Well,
and the difference between us winning something and not winning something this year, as everybody, their dog, their cat, and their fucking bin man knows, is the fact that our forward line is not strong enough.
Well, even if you signed a forward, though, top quality, it doesn't guarantee you win anything, mate. It's difficult to win this Premier League.
Of course it is, Geoff, and we might not, but you've got to try.
Of course.
And at the moment, it feels like we're so nervous, so timid of it, or we might not work out, or we might not be good enough. Football is about being brave. It's about having a bit of ambition. And, if some clubs, Everton spend every single penny they have. You can't criticise them for not bringing a player in. It's not there. We should just be maximising every single penny. And we have a team at Arsenal that is failing in the transfer window, and it's partly because we're still trying to use the same size infrastructure that was used in 1996 when he joined. There's no one at boardroom level with any football experience at all to either support or challenge him. He's got in as a kind of a quasi-director of football, a guy who's not very strong or good, which he deliberately appointed someone not very strong or good so that he wasn't challenged. When David Dein won, he was told he could have his pick from world football, and he promoted internally someone who'd been acting as our Spanish translator agent, and that was deliberate so he could concentrate power. But it's kind of, I feel like it, we probably agree, Geoff, that he needs more support and help. We called on the club to strengthen the boardroom this year. What did they do? They stuck in some young lad who plays basketball because he's the son of the owner and hasn't been to an Arsenal game for 5 years.
That's a different debate. You're talking about boardroom level.
I believe it ties to why we are not competent now.
So you're saying we need a director of football?
I'm saying that we need someone we need someone who is putting more work and more strategy in there. Yes,
Arsene Wenger will not play. That's not the way he works.
He's going to end up.
I agree. No, I agree, Geoff.
How can you have a manager with so much experience, right, and everything he's done, right? He's not that type of man, right, to let someone choose
so that
the
anybody else
have
control.
No, it's nothing to do with that. It's nothing to do with that. He's not going to... What's the point of having... I don't agree with that, all that, we get a group of... That's for modern-day coaches, right? It's for modern days, for AVBs and all that, and see how they've worked out, right? Old-school people like Wenger and Fergie and that, they've got to be in charge of... One, they've got to recruit the players. That's the first thing they do. And if you've got a director of football, right, like they've done at Tottenham, look how they are. £107 million, and it's all... come to shit, they're trying to sell them all now.
Tottenham, 14 of the 16 teams that reached the last 16 of the Champions League last year have a director of football. The only two that didn't is Alex Ferguson and Arsene Wenger. And you've got to reach the point where you've got to say, come on, you've got to catch up with the way the world's going. We used to say this, foreign managers don't work in English football. It was because they hadn't brought any good ones over. Director of football is the way the game's gone. And of course you need a good director of football and they need to get on with their manager. But it's not as if Arsene Wenger's got a great recent track record. He hasn't won anything for 8 years. The board should be saying to him, look, you're fantastic in so much what you do. You're the best developmental manager in world football. You put together teams that play great football. About 80% of what you do is fantastic, but you have a weakness in this area of the transfer market. Think what David Dein did for you. We're going to bring in that kind of support again. And I think that should be a condition of a new contract being signed. Otherwise, we'll just have more of this. More tearing our hair out at indecision and pulling out of deals at the last minute because he's not sure whether he likes the size of the price tag.
Yeah, but David Dein...
Wenger would have never have pulled off the Sol Campbell deal on his own.
David Dein is not that type of person that you are talking about. You are talking about a person that actually selects the players for Arsene Wenger.
He needs help, Geoff.
That is ridiculous.
Geoff, no, not necessarily, Geoff. Geoff, you can have when I talk about a director of football, I mean more strategic, more as a kind of working on targets, overseeing the scouting network, making the final decisions on how much you pay for them. Yeah. I would agree. I wouldn't write into their job remit that you pick the player, you make the final choice, because that's a recipe for chaos. One man has got to absolutely be the kingmaker in the final decision. I would much more, if you like, the David Dein type role for a director of football, the strategist, the support, the link to the boardroom, Arsene Wenger, of course he should have a say on how much it costs, but he shouldn't have a veto like he does at the moment. And I think that if he doesn't get that sort of support, we're just going to carry on like we are, almost there, but not quite.
David Dean's role, I would agree with, no problem. But we've got Arsene Wenger is a man that needs to select the players and he'll coach them at the same time.
Well, of course, yeah, but he shouldn't. Like I say, the problem is Wenger's proved since he hasn't had somebody in that role that he's not actually capable of doing that, but doing that role as well as being a manager. He's proved that time and time again.
That's a myth.
Oh, yeah, he has, because since David Dean's left, we've won fuck all. Not that I'm particularly a David Dein fan, but since David Dean's gone...
It coincided with the move to the Emirates, and we hadn't really had that kind of money.
It coincided with us selling all of our stars and not actually replacing them, whereas David Dein wouldn't have actually let that happen. The problem, like I say, even when we moved to the new ground, they said there's no point having a world-class stadium if you haven't got world-class on the pitch. And that's the problem at the moment, is we've got a world-class stadium, we're paying world-class prices for the privilege of watching a team which hasn't been world-class. And that's for 8 years, and you can moan about the money all you like, but the money's been there.
If
you look at the accounts, right, the accounts is quite clear. Do you know what I mean? We had. Tim will probably knows a hell of a lot more about this than myself. But apart from Ozil, we probably had 70, 80 million extra to spend in the summer. You go back to the transfer window before that, we had about 50 million to spend. The transfer window about 40 million. And you can go back and back and back. The problem is Wenger's, he's created a couple of world-class teams. But when he's sold them off, he hasn't actually replaced them. And the replacements haven't been good enough. And that all leads down to the fact that he hasn't actually had anybody that's capable of helping him and capable of Wenger saying, oh, I like him, he's a good player. And then saying, look, leave that to me, I'll go out and get him. Don't you worry about the money, we'll worry about the money. And that's how it should be. You shouldn't have the manager controlling the finances. The manager should be going to somebody and saying, I would like him, in that order, see what you can do.
What, the Leeds model, yeah?
Huh?
What, the Leeds model?
Oh,
yeah?
no. Let's pull out the Leeds model. Let's go the Barcelona.
Back to the Arsenal model that worked so well between 98 and 05. Back to that model.
Or the Barcelona model, or the Bayern Munich model. Let's go for them two models. Why pick on fucking Leeds? It's pathetic.
Well, because we are not in a situation where we can go and compete with the Cities and the Chelseas and Man Uniteds at the moment. We've got to go steady. We've got to go careful. We're not in that league where we can go and give 70, 80 million pound for a player.
No, but we've got 70 million that could be spent.
Well, you don't blow it on one player.
And
what
Geoff,
about next year?
It's a real straw man for you to throw up Leeds and that. All I'm saying, you realise we have got a weaker football infrastructure than we had in 2004. Yet the game's got more complicated and more complex in terms of scouting networks and doing deals and where you are. We must be the only club in world football that has a smaller senior football team than in 04, because in effect it's the same team than it was then, minus David Dean. And I don't know why you're so resistant to the idea of someone coming in that kind of role to support you.
No, you misunderstood me. I misunderstood you. I thought you was talking about bringing in a director of football. Now, a director of football, as I know it, right, is someone that selects the players and you get the players into the club, like at Tottenham, and someone coaches them, like AWOB.
That's bollocks.
No, that's true.
The manager has to pick the players. The problem is as Tim was saying, if there's a director of football, as in how
you need someone to go out there and negotiate, and Wenger has nothing to do with how much they're paying for that particular player. So if a player's valued, if Wenger thinks he's worth £35 million, like he did with Wiltord.
Wenger
shouldn't the same thing, didn't he? David Dean did the same thing.
Wenger shouldn't be thinking that. Wenger shouldn't be thinking. Wenger shouldn't be thinking how much a player's going to cost. He should say to someone, right, this is my wish list. Give him a wish list and say, do your best. And the problem
that's what they've done.
Well, and they've come up with nothing for free transfer windows running. So we should be sacking them. Oh, bollocks. Don't give me that shit, Geoff. That's absolute bollocks to say there's nobody out there. That's such a lame fucking excuse.
Okay, well, tell me who we could have afforded, right, that could have... Because we've only had this money for the last, let's say...
Free transfer windows. Let's go back to when
Van
Persie
not really
left.
Free transfer windows. No, we haven't really.
We have the same money as we had in the summer.
We had it since last summer, really.
We had the same
money, the big money.
Not really. We've had the same amount of money.
I can clarify this. We've had money not spent. It goes back to when Adebayor and Nasri were sold to City. Ever since then, we've closed the window with money that could have been used, but it's got bigger. Really mega money to spend. The last summer that's just gone, although you could have bought a £30 million player the summer before. And this is the point, Geoff. But okay, it's 30 million. How do I maximise that? I don't think there's enough attitude. I keep going back to him here, but the famous David Dean quote: every morning, get up, having a shave before going to Arsenal, looking at how do I get a stronger team? My thought, first as I get up, how do I get a better team? How do I get a stronger team? I don't feel that we have that drive there enough now. I think Wenger's got it, but he's trying to do too much. He's still out on the training ground as well and doing everything. And we need to strengthen. And using the director of football, I can see the terminology. When Arsenal were really firing for a few years, they had a managing director of football called David Dean and a managing director of commercial called Keith Edelman. Now, Ivan Gazidis is trying to do all of it. We know that his relationship isn't particularly strong with Arsene. It's a working relationship, but it's not like that Dean kind of relationship. And I think it's become too isolated, and the results of the transfer window speak for themselves.
So what would you do with your £30 million that he was talking about?
Well,
you want to utilise the 30 million quid.
Well, among the things, and I'm sure they're doing this, and as I say, I don't want to hone in on this window because I think the far bigger failings came in the summer when it's much easier to buy. But, what I do ask, and you know a bit, what were they doing over these 31 days that they end up on the final day messing around with an emergency signing for a fairly elderly Swede who it turns out has got a bad back? Is there not, I imagine that there's almost like, isn't there a sort of, right, if something went wrong, this is the right back we get, this is the left back we get. Is there not a kind of constantly moving evaluation of where we would go? Because that is what should be happening. You should know exactly where you are. We're going to need a right back soon. We need a young central defender to start coming in and nurturing because we're thin there. We obviously need the striker. I accept that that's very difficult, particularly the 40 million one. But it feels haphazard, Geoff. It just feels like Arsene hones in on a young talent that excites him, fiddles around with them for 3 or 4 weeks, decides he can't afford them, and then we've got nothing lined up.
But that's not the case. The case was that Shaw ended up not going through with the sale. And then it came out today over the last week that we've contacted Madrid and Barcelona over Morata at Madrid and Tello and Cuenca here in Barcelona.
Enough. Money talks, John. And I've seen these people getting themselves all het up over the Schalke comments. The reason that the Schalke MD or owner, didn't accept it was because it was a lowball bid at about 25 million. It was, it was Arsenal's view of the maximum you pay for that player.
Well, my understanding
is that I think Arsenal might be right.
The fee was agreed, but the manager actually vetoed the deal.
No, well, that's nonsense. Managers don't tell their owners what they're doing if a fee.
That's what came out of Draxler's mouth.
No, it's not. You go and get the translation. How's he going to know what the owner and manager have done there?
I'm only passing on what was printed.
It's agreed. It is done, and we know exactly what happened there. And it was briefed on Thursday night. And I actually think, and maybe I'm on Geoff's side here. I think Arsene may well have been right. I don't think spending 37 million on a Draxler was our priority at the moment. My criticism of Arsene wouldn't be for not doing that deal. It would be that was the only deal it appears he was thinking about all month. When there were more pressing priorities for our squad and where our money.
Yeah, I mean, I agree to some extent because I think Tello would have been a signing that we could have done if the money would have been offered, the proper money would have been offered for him.
So what do you say then, people, Tim specifically, what do you say to the people that say, well, he went out and got Ozil in the summer, he can do it?
The Ozil signing was really important for the club, but he didn't go out and get him. That was he was offered to us over the final few days. We were trying to sign Kabay from Newcastle the week before, and if we'd have signed him, you wouldn't have signed Ozil. There was no strategy to it. No. It was great that we took him at the last minute, and it was great that we were prepared to pay the money. But don't think that it was some, big plan or strategy. It was more a panic about we need a big signing at the end.
He tried to sign Mesut Ozil before he even signed when he was at Werder Bremen. Yeah, he tried to sign Mesut Ozil.
That's fine. You could name 100 players that you tried to sign.
He was actually in talks with Madrid to sign Di Maria. He was trying to get Di Maria.
Exactly. And I think they were, because they needed the striker, and they were also
looking at 4 targets.
And they were amazed that in that final week, and actually no one else was competing with us. And we've got one of the advantages, one of Arsene Wenger's great things is the bilingual skills, which meant he could talk to Ozil in German, which I think makes a big difference and helps. And the transfer happened, but it wasn't strategic. We ended up with 2 players signed in the summer, both welcome, but one was a player who was allowed to train on our pitch to get fit, and they couldn't find anybody else, and they thought we'll take him, but it wasn't planned. And then right at the end, they're great signings. And also, look, in football, that's the way it works. An awful lot of it is, you ride your luck and make good judgments at the time. But it wasn't strategic, was it?
Tim, no disrespect to you, and I mean this, honestly, but you have no idea whether they've got a strategy or not.
But they're not showing it, are they?
Exactly.
Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You have no idea whether they have a strategy or not.
Okay,
it's all assumptions and opinions. You do it all the time.
Has the strategy, right, for this season to be to sell Bentham on the last day of the season, and then, oh, whoops, we're going to keep him, and then not bother replacing him in the next window either? Because that don't sound like a good strategy to me, mate. That sounds a bit of a fuck-up.
Well, with all due respect to you, right? You might say that, but if we're
Okay,
talking,
right. Go on, explain why.
If we're talking now, right?
Yeah.
If we're talking at the end of the season, with the last 6 months that we've just had, we've most probably have won the league. Right? Well, it's true. There's the same squad, barring 2 players, Fellaini and Mesut Ozil. He's doing something right. Like I said, I keep on repeating it. We can go top again tomorrow, right? No one would have ever thought that. Who would think now that we can win the league in May? You never know. And it's the same team.
As John pointed out earlier, right?
Well, then it wouldn't be that bad then, would it?
Our second and third highest goal scorers are unlikely to play for, Walker ain't going to play for us this season. Ramsey's fucking, if our medical team say he's going to be out for 6 weeks, it's going to be closer to 6 months, right? It only takes an injury to Giroud and we're fucked.
No, I don't know. I don't necessarily do that.
But go back to your point when you're talking about the club actually having a strategy. Please explain what part of the strategy was to get rid of Bentner on the 31st of August. On the 1st of September, it all went bent and we've kept him. And we wanted to bring in a striker in the summer. That didn't happen. And we didn't bring a striker in January either. What part of the strategy is going right in this position, mate? It's all completely wrong.
Well, there was obviously in for Higuain, right? They dropped Higuain because they had, obviously, it turned out to be the wrong information for Luis Suarez. And I do honestly believe that Luis Suarez and Guardiola thought in their heart of hearts that they was right. So I think the information they give, whoever they give it to, they thought they were selling the truth, right? And Arsenal believed it, which was maybe a mistake, but that's another debate, okay?
Look at the contract. Right. It's quite a simple thing
to do. Well, I don't know whether they're allowed to do that, Tim. I don't think they're allowed to do that. It's illegal.
Well, looking at the contract or being told what's in it, same thing. It goes on all the time.
Well, you can't officially declare that you've looked at another man's contract. You'll get nicked.
You can't officially do it, but come on, you're not. It's how the world works.
For me, moving on from the striker situation, which I think we can all agree is a clusterfuck for whatever reason, for a multitude of reasons, rather. For me, I think it's a more worrying sign that somebody that we brought in as cover for injuries is, in fact, himself injured and was discovered during the medical, and we went ahead and fucking signed him anyway.
Well, they were desperate. Because when the window's going to close in 6 hours, this is back to my thing about not sort of being strategic with a list of targets and having an organised setup like that. If they hadn't assigned him, it was too late to get anyone else. So what they probably did was cross their fingers and hope that when the scans came through today, it was going to be 2 weeks, not 6 weeks. That's all I can assume. Or it's actually even worse than that. It's a dodgy deal. Because there's no other logic for it.
Wenger was told that it was a minor back injury, right? And it might only be a couple of weeks. Now, listen, he's not. Again,
like I say, the only thing, mate. Wenger should know by now. He shouldn't take any advice from our medical department whatsoever.
Oh, well, that's another debate.
I'm sure they're very professional and know what they're doing, but they don't really, do they? Do you know what I mean?
If you're told it's a minor, it's got a minor problem, it'd be a couple of weeks. If Wenger was told, I'll tell you what, Arsene, lovely boy, he's nice and tidy on the ball, but he's out for 6 weeks. You need your head tested if you think he would have signed him.
But Geoff...
Well, it's not 6 weeks, it's 6 games. So it's actually February.
6 games. It's 6 games.
How can you defend the only signing in the window being a player that hasn't played since the end of November?
Well, they've got a break, mate, that's why.
But
they've got a break.
That's not good enough.
Why someone who's not coming off a break?
Why can't you sign someone that's already match fit? I mean, the amount of time it takes to build up to be match fit. We're talking, this is going to be weeks before we see him in an Arsenal shirt, even without an injury.
Yeah, but we're all assuming again, don't we? We don't know how fit he was really. But he was on a pre-season break with the club.
It's all right for them to say, he might be in the squad for Palace, but really, physically, he ain't going to make Palace.
Well, you don't know that, do you?
No, I don't know that, but I can assume for someone that's not played since November that's never.
Well, he was in Abu Dhabi with his Spartak, and he got hurt playing football on the beach.
See, there you go. That pretty much sums it all up. I mean, I think personally it's indefensible.
That was on a pre-season tour. When they go on a pre-season tour, that's what they do. They get fit.
Well, it didn't work, did it? Because he ain't fit.
Well, good, shit happens. It's Arsenal, isn't it? You get injuries, didn't you?
He's about as fit as Diaby, mate.
But but you remember all the hoo-ha and everything else yesterday that we wanted to give nearly 40 million or more than 40 million pound for Draxler. You do realise that he's injured at the moment as well, don't you?
Yeah.
Geoff, that's a few people have thrown that on Twitter, and that is a ridiculous argument. But Draxler, if you buy him, he's been bought for the next 5 years, as you well know, as one of the brightest talents in Europe that you develop and bring on. If he comes with a short knock that's going to clear up, it makes no difference to that long-term plan.
He's had a tendon injury, mate.
The whole point of this Kim chap was that he was going to immediately get thrown in to cover a short-term issue, particularly with Ramsey going down for a few weeks. So it's a completely different requirement of why he's needed. He's not long-term for us. He's just filling in an injury and suspension pinch. And absolutely the man who gets brought in for that should be fit. Now, you're given the benefit of the doubt, and I think it probably is what Geoff said, which on the scan, well, like I said, they had their fingers crossed that it wasn't going to be too bad, but they had no other choice. Back to my thing about them being all over the place. If they didn't sign him, there was nobody else.
Well, you know what? I agree what you're saying, and I do share what you're saying, right? But, when it gets to that stage, you've got 6 or 7 hours left, you are really fucked, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even if you do want to go back to where you first started, it's too late at that stage.
So
the thing is, it shouldn't be down to the last fucking 6 hours or the last day. I mean,
remember when he screwed up with but this is the classic all on the last day.
As well. Oh, Park as well.
Do you remember when he screwed up with the goalkeeper from Fulham, and Fulham's main goalkeeper got injured, or rather their backup goalkeeper got injured, and we didn't get Schwarzer? It's a classic about this. Oh, I might save 10% by waiting for the final day, or I'm not sure.
Do you know how much they wanted for him? Do you know how much they asked for him? £15 million. They asked Arsenal £15 million for a 37-year-old or something like that.
But in that same summer, Schettelenburg moved from Ajax to Roma for $6 million. So you have to ask yourself a little bit to what Tim is touching on. How come we didn't know that another player of equal or same caliber is available? And then like you said, okay, great. They said no to Schwarzer because they were asking $15 million. But then you move on to the Dutch number one
if you leave
for
$6
million.
If you leave it late, it's risky. The Suarez bid, and I do think that whoever put in 40 million and one, should never work, negotiating contracts again because it's such a basic error. But anyway, move on.
Yeah, I agree.
It went wrong on, I think, the 25th of July. The next you hear of trying to do something about that is scrambling to get a loan out of Chelsea on deadline day. What went on in the 6 weeks in between? An awful lot of this is left to a final deadline day scramble. And I know people much more on the business side of the club than the football side like you do, Geoff. But a lot of the feedback is that the manager is quite indecisive, mulls things over, plays things around, and you end up with this dangerous kind of deadline day pressure, and things can often go wrong on you on deadline day, as we've seen.
The problem is come the summer, it's going to be even fucking worse, because he's not going to want to buy anyone before the World Cup, and then you're going to get the World Cup, then they're going to have a week off, then they're going to go back to their clubs, and I just see this summer being every much a fuck up as fucking the last 3 or 4 transfer windows.
Now I'm gonna say something because we've been kind of slating the hell out of the club and Wenger and
not me.
Well, not you, but as a collective at certain points, I'm perfectly happy with what we have on the books right now. Obviously, besides a couple of need areas, injuries can't be it's nothing that you can predict. So, what worried me was Carlson coming in and he was injured, and then failing to get a striker backup. But at the end of the day, this lot got us here, and they have been dealing with injury to major key players, 2 or more, since the beginning of the season, and they're still here 1 point off the pace. So for me, it's not a matter of what we didn't add. It's a matter of, at this point, the window is shut. There's nothing we can do about it.
We got. Yeah, I agree with you there, John.
There's nothing we can fucking do about it. Let's get behind the lads. Let's hope that they duplicate what they did in the first half of the year and what they've done in the run-ins for the last 2 years, because they're capable of doing it.
But no one. We all agree with you. We all agree with you. It's fantastic. I think maybe the slight passion or angst is coming from the fact that they are doing fantastically well, and we wanted them to help do even better. But you're right. And the first thing I tweeted at the end of the transfer window, first thing I said, we're in a brilliant position. With the squad he's got, win every game, and we're champions. What an amazing position to be in when the transfer window closes. And what a credit to him and the squad that is there. Win for 15 games less, and no one can do anything about it. Those 15 games won, 3 points for each of them, we're champions. That is wonderful.
I don't think we need to go that far, but I think if we just remain consistent, the teams around us are going to drop points. Look at Chelsea versus West Ham, 38 shots on target, and they were held. Aguero's out for 4 to 6 weeks. That's going to hurt.
I don't think with what Man City's got, I don't. Even though he's probably he's a top forward, that fella.
Yeah.
But like I say, I mean, even what they've got in reserve, he's highly special. Man City, like I say, Man City are going to win the league. I think they'll win the league by 7 points.
I agree.
I mean, no matter, even if we beat them, I still think they'll win the league by 6 or 7 points. They've seemed to have tidied up their away record, which was possibly the only reason that we've been up there for so long.
And why is that though, Gav? That is because
I think it's because their manager was just getting used to playing football in England. Really, I mean, you've got to imagine the fellas never
play on the pitch though, mate. He don't go over the white line and play. It's the players that got on the pitch, and the players that got on the pitch.
They've got special players there.
Cost £500 million.
I mean, they still need direction. I mean, let's remember, look, the majority of football players are fucking stupid, and they need direction. They need telling what to do and where to go and who to mark. And Man City also away from home.
Not at that level, they don't, mate.
Yes, they do. They're fucking stupid.
Not when you're paying £50 million for a player. Believe me, you know exactly what you're getting, and he doesn't need to be told anything.
Yeah, no, I don't give footballers any fucking credit of being fucking sensible or intelligent in any way, shape or form.
It's when you're giving the £12 million for people like Giroud. They're the ones you've got to nurture for a little bit and make them into that kind of.
I see your point, Geoff. The other night when they brought what's his name on for City, Jovetic, I forgot they even had him. And here's another £20 million player that will just throw on. And where it's true is if we spend £40 million on a player, that player's got to work out. Whereas if City spend £40 million on a player and it doesn't work out, they're going to buy another one. But that, to me, is not the reason why you don't, sign a £40 million player. Sure, you might think about it a bit harder, and you've got to absolutely get it right. But you've still got to try, haven't you? Otherwise, you might as well give up. But I want to move the question on slightly for you guys. What you were talking about there. Next week, we go into this amazing run. We play Manchester United in the Premier League, followed by Liverpool in the FA Cup, followed by Bayern Munich in the Champions League. So we play 3 huge games in 3 huge tournaments. How would you manage our resources? Would you almost throw one of the tournaments and concentrate on the others? Would you average it out? What would you do?
He's gonna try and get his best team possible for the Champions League game. I think that the Liverpool game is likely that we'll see Jenkinson. Not a lot he can do with the midfield. It's just whoever's fit at the time, really. Flamini, I think he'll probably try and save for the Champions League because he can't play in the other 2. So Arteta's probably odds on for the other 2 games. But I think we'll probably see out of all of them the weakest team for the Liverpool game. He'll probably start with Bentner on the pitch, try and keep Ozil on the bench.
I think the opposite.
I think that's the way he's going to go.
I think out of all of them, I think he'll go after the FA Cup more than the Champions League.
No, I can't say that.
No, I don't. I would, but I think for him that is very minor. The one he really wants is the Champions League, isn't it? It's not on his CV yet. The European coaching forums he goes to, he wants to walk in with it, and I think he'll prioritise that. I think it's a big dilemma for him because if he spreads it around, we'll end up not getting through any of them. What would you do, Geoff?
I'll tell you what I would do. I'd keep the back 5 as they are, and you can spread it around with the midfielders that we got. You should change Rosicky and Podolski and Cazorla and Ozil. And I think Zelalem will most probably play in the FA Cup against Liverpool. He might get an appearance, but I think we've still got enough. You've got Sonogo coming back, and this is another thing. Everyone takes the piss out of Sonogo, the postman this, the postman that. And but you don't know about these guys. You never know. He might come on and break.
He was
through.
great. He was great in the under-20.
He might come on and break through. Who thought Lukaku was going to be any good? Who thought Benteke was going to be any good? You want to buy Benteke? We might have a Benteke in Sanogo. Well, we might do. How do you know?
I'm saying that you do laugh about that, and it has been a subject of people having a pop at me on Twitter and all sorts of places. Even my mates have been saying, Benteke would have been the ideal second striker for us, and I still believe that. I mean, he's had his injury problems. He's had his injury problems this year, and if we'd taken a punt, do you know what I mean, maybe offered Villa 20-25 million, we could have had a sniff. But you don't know till you put them in. You don't know till you put a bid in. But they're the sort of Villa at the moment are the sort of team that we can go and look at their best striker and try and bully him. Try and turn Benteke's head. That's what David Dean used to do for us.
You'd have to give £15 million for him. I think you'd have to give £15 million for him, wouldn't you? We are not the
even
type
with
of
the
team.
injuries, he scored 7.
Yeah, listen, we are not the type of team that can afford £15 million at the moment because we. 1 minute, let me finish.
Then why are they putting the fucking prices up, mate?
No, 1 minute. That's another subject. We can't afford to give 15 million now, and then go and give 45, 50, 60 million pound in the summer. That is the difference.
Yeah, that's a fair point, Geoff.
We're not Manchester City. We can't buy them £20 million players. Craig Bellamy and Rodwell and all that. We can't and just leave them.
Okay, I've got a question for you. This is, with all due respect, you're probably the oldest out of all of us, I would presume. When was the last time we had such a weak forward line than what we've got at the moment? Because, I mean, I'm probably going back. I think the weakest we had as a forward line was when I started going, which was probably 85, 86, when we had players like Campbell, Quinn, and Daisy. And even then, I'd settle for fucking somebody like Campbell up front for us at the moment, Kevin Campbell. But like I say, this is probably the worst set of forwards we've had since then. Would you agree?
The forwards, man for man, yes, I would agree. But
so it's the worst set of forwards we've had for what? How many? Let me get me head around that. 28 years.
I don't know.
Yeah, 28 years, 27 years.
And what?
Okay. No, I'm just saying. Yeah,
we're second in the league, right?
Yeah.
Fighting above people that have spent, I don't know, 50 times more money than us. And, they still... That's another thing. Chelsea are crying out for a striker. Chelsea are crying out for a striker. They can't find one.
He's got 2 or 3 good strikers there.
Doesn't matter. No, he wants to buy a striker. You know that for a fact. He wants to buy a striker. If Chelsea can't find one, how are we going to find one? There's just not there.
I agree with that sentiment, but
can you not get it?
I'd settle what they've got for. I'd swap what Chelsea got up front to what we've got up front.
Well, so would I. Of course. But it cost them a lot of money. If he paid £50 million for Torres, how much he paid for Eto'o? I bet he's cost them £25 million. Samuel Eto'o. And you got Barr. Well, he cost about 15 sheep, didn't he? I think that's about it, Barr.
And Lukaku when he comes back next year.
Lukaku when he can't get a game.
Lukaku is one of those players that they've said they're actually going to sell in the summer. Why not punt at Lukaku? I think he's Arsenal standard.
He'll never sell to us, I don't think.
Yeah.
But surely, wouldn't the same circumstance...
Well, listen. We talked about this earlier off the air. Let's look at the Klose situation in Lazio. Just going by how everything was reported, we went in for a Klose, asked about him. Lazio comes back, snubs the approach. 5 hours later, Chelsea has given Lazio a forward on loan. And then you go back to the Sahin drama of last year, and
it does go
back to the Ba situation. So
definitely goes on. It definitely goes on.
Yeah.
And he doesn't miss a trick, Mourinho. I promise you, he does not miss a trick.
Right. We'll look to wrap this up then, fellas. And if I could get some predictions for tomorrow's game against Crystal Palace, and we'll do things a little bit differently, seeing as it's a Saturday night podcast. And we'll go to the guest first. So, Tim, can I have a prediction and a first scorer from you, please?
I think we'll win 1-0 and the scorer will be Cazorla.
Okay, fantastic. Gav?
Just before Geoff does it, I'm going to go 2-0 Giroud.
And Geoff?
Yeah, I'm going to repeat that. 2-0 Giroud.
And finally, John.
Fuck me. That was exactly what I was going to say. But I'm going to go 2-0 Cazorla.
I'm going to go 2-1 Ozil. So, is there anything else anybody wants to add tonight before we close tonight's show?
Yeah, can I just mention the fact that if the club keep stockpiling the money, what the fucking point is increasing ticket prices all about? If they're not going to spend the money, like, I mean, the terminology of a club is lots of people getting together to make one thing good, and the supporters give their best, the match-going supporters hand over their hard cash, the foreign fans do their bit by buying their shirts, their scarves and whatever, and their memberships for the online digital shit and blah blah blah. But what the fucking point is increasing the ticket prices if they're not actually going to spend the money? They had a huge deal with Emirates, a huge deal with Puma. They've done another deal with some Swiss watchmaking company. They've done, the TV money's going up fucking stupidly amount. And like I say, I'd like to. I mean, I know Tim's here from the AST tonight. Obviously, want to say that anybody that gets behind any of the supporters clubs, like the BSM, even Asia, if they would really increase their online profile, might do them a bit of a favour. And anybody who does anything, even if it's you and 6 mates who hold up a fucking sign saying 3%, you're having a laugh, or you turn up at the ground with an A4 bit of paper saying 3%, enough is enough. Whatever, anybody who does anything...
Not in the stadium, no way.
Yeah, in the stadium, right?
Oh, please.
Anybody that does anything towards...
Everything that comes out of your mouth is negative, Gav. You've got to stop that.
Jeffrey, please. You can have your bit in a minute, son. Okay. Right, anybody who does anything or puts any time into actually protesting against the amount that they're charging people to go and watch a game deserves an immense amount of credit, and I wish you all the best of luck with it. But obviously, everybody wants the team to do well, but if they're not putting the resources into the team, then they should really give the fans a break. I read an article today, which was an interview with the club in the Islington Gazette before we moved grounds, and the club saying we should be able to offer a lowest price ticket of £10 per game every game. Thought that would be stunned silence. I wish everybody.
No, I remember that. Yeah, they brought in the Wembley thing, didn't they? When we was at Wembley, £10.
We was at Wembley, £10 a game, and they said that when we moved to the bigger increased stadium, it should be able to the lowest price ticket starting at £10 a game. And now we're looking at next year the average price up another 3%, which is completely and utterly unjustified. So, like I say, good luck to anybody who protests or does their own little thing about it.
Exactly. I'll share your sentiment with regard to the 3% thing. I think it's pointless. It's useless. It's a minimal amount of money they're going to gain from it anyway. I think it was bad timing. It shouldn't have been done. With regard to because they're not spending the money, I don't believe that. I think that Arsenal are trying to spend the money. It's quite clear. They've given £42 million on Ozil last summer. They're prepared. If Suarez was available today for £60 million, I think they'd sign him. So I think that goes out the window. But with regards to the 3% thing, it's wrong.
And shocking PR by the club, because just at a time when the stadium is coming together, when there's an uplift around the team, and it's different. You chat about this online, and so many people chip in, and of course there's a huge audience there. I know from chatting to the people that I go to the games with, particularly the people I'll be with tomorrow, it's really created a sense of them and us. It wasn't needed, and it's just kind of ruined the mood at the moment, and the club should have just thought a bit harder about this and thought, we're on this roll, everyone's in it together, push on till the end of the season, and they screwed it up. And I think it just shows, well, they're not in touch, are they? The people in the club are just not in touch enough with us. And I agree with everything Gav says, because they are, the one thing they hate is having to read it over the cornflakes in the newspapers coming back at them and online. And, certainly I'm not going to rest until they get it in their face every single day. And we've got to keep pushing at them and standing up for the ordinary fan.
Definitely. Well said. Before we go, if any of you have some shout-outs, then proceed. Tim?
Oh, no, sorry.
Okay, Gav?
Not many.
Yeah, just like I was saying before, anybody who's doing anything, who's making a point, be it online or in the ground, outside the ground, about the ticket prices, give me a shout. I'll back you up to the hilt, boys.
Fantastic. Geoff?
Oh, I've got one.
Okay.
Go on, Tim.
Can I come back in? Just next Monday night, it's got shout out as a reminder for all Arsenal Supporters Trust members, or if you know one, would be happy if you came along with one. We've got Patrick Barkley coming in to talk about that fantastic book he's written about Herbert Chapman. You know, the man who really revolutionised Arsenal and changed so much in football and the game. And he's a brilliant talker and journalist. And we'll have a good chat about where Arsenal are now, but we'll also have a really good history lesson and debate on that. I think Geoff will be there and others. And you can even get a copy of that book if you haven't already got it at the bargain price of a tenner for the hardback books. So shout out for Monday the 10th at the AST, Herbert Chapman, the legend.
I know the AST get a lot of stick. I know people say this and that about them, but I'll tell you what, I've been a member now for about 18 months or something, and I've been to some fantastic meetings. Some, people come over and they speak. Like you say, Paddy Barkley. We had Nick Harris, didn't we, from Sporting Intelligence. We had Crossy and a few journos come up there. And for the 24 quid, mate, it's the best 24 quid to get an insight, if you like that kind of thing. I'm a bit of a geek like that. I like all that. But it's the best 24 quid I've ever spent, honestly.
And also, the other thing that's great is it puts people together that have maybe been chatting online.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you see, and it's got very hot and heated over the last 24 hours, when people can properly chat rather than using 140 characters and properly explain themselves, it's so much more productive and friendly and bantering about the club, because everyone can see you've got the same ultimate thing going on, which is a love for Arsenal.
Exactly. This is
very true.
This is part of why we felt that, we had to come on here tonight and get people with different perspectives on, chatting to each other, and maybe the listeners can take something from this and formulate their own opinions, and let's work together to make a better Arsenal, not
So we all want to fucking win. That's the bottom line. I mean, we all want a solvent, successful club. We all want a club that's up there challenging, with the supporters doing their bit, the manager and the players doing their bit, and the directors doing their bit. Everybody pulling in the right direction to do the best for the club, and nobody fucking feeling like they're being trodden on or being fucking stitched up by anybody else. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. We want a manager that works with the ball well. Do you know what I mean? We want a manager that the players like, and in return, they've got to be respectful to the fans, because at the end of the day, without the fans, there is no fucking club.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Geoff,
you know what I mean? There is no club.
Your shout out, please.
Oh, I've only got one shout out tonight. It's got to go to Mrs. GA, because, like I said, she stuck it on me last night. I had to hold fire to get myself ready. So tonight she's going to get a damn good thrashing.
And finally, John.
Mine's going to be to Raj Patel, 1809. I killed his intro yesterday, and I said BCM member, and it's BSM member, obviously. So a shout out to him. I would like to add, though, one thing that I said earlier was, we judged Wenger on his transfer policy last year when the window shut. He didn't do too shabby. We can judge the movement of the club this window, and it was a definite fail. I think we can all agree on that. But at the end of the day, he asked one thing before the season started: judge me in May. So, let's sit back and see what happens for the rest of the year.
Definitely.
Come on, Arsenal.
My shout out tonight goes to, you might have all noticed that a mainstay of this podcast, Danny, isn't here tonight. Unfortunately, he's got a little bit of a dicky belly, and he's a little bit unwell. So my shout out goes to ABW's producer, Danny. So
get well soon, Dan.
Yeah, get well.
Get well, Dan.
So that was a Bergkamp Wonderland podcast. Thank you very much for listening, and try not to get too angry. Good night.
One arse and Wenger.
Up the arse.
3, 2, 1, sausages.
Up the Arsenal.
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 Up the Arsenal.